Hey there, this is the Leap to Scale podcast, the podcast that helps service companies create breakout growth using technology. My name is Justin Davis.
I'm Greg Ross Monroe.
And Greg, it looks like you are in a little bit of a different place than we normally do this podcast from, or you normally do this podcast from.
I'm in a like nice little hotel in Basel, Switzerland, and it is nice and cool outside, crisp. And very pretty.
What are you doing in Basel?
We have a lot of clients in Basel and in Europe in general. So I just did a couple days in Hamburg and in Basel for a couple days here, then Geneva, just doing the annual European Grand Tour, enjoying the food, the wine, the wonderful people, and then flying home back to you, buddy, on Friday to sunny Tampa, Florida, to enjoy drinking beer and talking about, I don't know, AI with you on the weekends as well as like our day jobs as well. So.
I love it. Best drink that you've had.
I know this is gonna surprise you, but not a lot of drinking. It's been a lot of spending time with clients. They're buying the wine, so okay. I'm drinking a lot of delicious white wines.
Okay, but, white wines. I like it.
Yeah, we but this. I think we're talking today about the most exciting thing in the world, which is KPIs. And I think it's very appropriate that I'm in Switzerland because this is the home of measurement, man. This is the home of great watchmaking. You know, I'm a watch nerd.
Yes.
And I unfortunately brought a Japanese watch with me to Switzerland.
Oh, is this a faux pas?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get into trouble for that, but that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, so
you guys are very Swiss. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Very exacting, measuring what you're doing, and so we're going to dive into that today. Talk a little bit about what the KPIs are. That if you're a service company and you're trying to scale and you're looking to use technology to do that, there are certain things that you measure and certain things that you should look at, almost like looking at the speedometer of your car, the dials and the gauges there, to know if the business is healthy. And you probably already do this. You probably look at your annual reports. You look at your revenue. You look at your expenses. You look at your, everything else, your EBITDA, right? But there are also other metrics that you can be looking at to start to look at your business through kind of a different lens. So, Greg, I guess what we should start off with is like how, like, one thing that we don't want to do is we don't want to have like death by KPI, death by measurement, right?
What is a KPI, first of all, for those who do not know? Because you're already in industry talk.
I am. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator.
That sounds exciting. Tell me more.
Sounds exciting. All a Key Performance Indicator is just a number that tells you something interesting about your business. It's just something you measure. It's like your weight that you measure when you get on the scale.
Whoa. Let's
your KPI for something.
Be cool here, buddy. I'm in Europe. I'm eating well, so
we have to put like a trigger warning.
Yeah, thing on we're okay.
Podcast. But so that's the idea. It's a number that you measure to know if something is going well, and it ends up becoming a target that you work on improving. And there are lots of other things you can measure, right? I mean, like measuring revenue is a KPI of a sort, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for your CFO, or if your CEO cares about it, hopefully everybody cares about it.
Right.
But I think the thing that we kind of want to focus on today is like there are metrics that you have different access to kind of measure once you move to a technology platform, as opposed to, my standard business, metrics that I will look at on my balance sheet or my income statement. And hopefully everyone's doing that already. If not, get yourself a fractional CFO. Great decision and well worth it. But there are certain things that you start to, when you step back from your business, just for a second, you start looking outside of the day to day, like how much money's coming in, how much money's going out, that you can start to see what is driving those that revenue coming in and going out, right? Other than just purely the financial metrics. Like how long does it take to here's a good one that like CFOs will always talk about, which is like how long time for collections, like how long is something in AR, right? That's your tip. That's a KPI that a lot of service businesses look at, because collections is super important. But if you start building your business on kind of a technology platform, or you are building software around what you do to like better aid the service delivery, you start to have like way more access to different ways of thinking about those metrics. You start to be able to collect way more types of data, and you can start to like, maybe you can start with a hypothesis about what's going to drive your revenue numbers. It's going to open up a whole new world for you of what kind of numbers are even available to ask for, right? Can you think of an example that a service company, I don't know, would want to track if they're now moved from traditional service model? Like, I don't know, I'm not going to say lawn care company again. We've done lawn care companies too often, but like, you're a professional services firm, and you people find you from your website on the internet, and you do some sort of professional service for them. What kind of things would you want to track if you've got that in?
I'll give you a great example of one.
Okay.
Which is
I'll tell you if it's a great example.
Okay. And this is for anybody that does proposals.
Everyone's favorite thing.
A couple things. One is the time to close from when a proposal is sent, right? There's a certain amount of days that elapse, probably days, if you're lucky, hours. But there's probably a certain amount of days that elapse between when you send a prospect a proposal and when they sign that proposal and send it back to you and say, yes, let's do business. And the deal is now closed. If you're able to shorten that window, it means that you can get more work into the machine faster, right? And you increase your overall throughput. So let's just say, for example, that it takes you on average 30 days to go from a proposal out to a proposal signed, because there's some negotiation that happens, all of that kind of thing, right? If you can get that from 30 days to maybe 12 days, then that's a really big deal. But the problem is that it's really hard to track that KPI. I mean, it's not terribly hard to track that KPI manually, but you're probably not tracking that KPI manually. You're probably not tracking when every email is sent out and when the actual close date is, and looking at it over time. But if you were to, say, use some proposal writing software or something like that, that's going to calculate that automatically for you. It's also going to help to give you a glimpse into things like, well, how many times did the prospect look at this? Are they looking at it often, or are they not looking at it often, right? And when you're in a service business and you're in that kind of qualifying stage, and if you're working in that particular part of the machine, quote unquote, as it were, then like what you have to do is kind of spread your attention out and put as much attention as you can on the highest value prospects and not waste your time on the lowest value prospects, right? But if you don't have that visibility, because you can't see how many times somebody's looked at a proposal, then how do you know how to spread your attention around, right? So that's another example of a way you can really optimize using like really off-the-shelf software.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you. I'm coming along. I guess my question then is, you said that that's pretty easy to track with a spreadsheet, right? I would guess that most other than like the open rates of something, which that's really tricky, right? You could theoretically send out an email, go into your spreadsheet, type in a number, like, I sent it out this date and this time. This is the date that it closed, and I got to be super diligent about that. Why would I mean, how much better can using software actually be than that? Or like, are there other numbers that maybe surface that can be tracked in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's lots of different numbers. I mean, that's like one example, right? Like there's a million different examples of that. You could easily track that. You do get intangibles like who is looking at the proposal stuff, right? That's something you cannot do without a piece of technology in the mix, to be looking at who is clicking on the thing, right? Also, you start to do things like, well, what I would love to do is I would really like to, if they've looked at the proposal 3 times, they've opened it and closed it 3 times, and we haven't heard anything back from them within 24 hours, it'd be nice for us to just send an automated message to them that says, hey, got any questions about the contract? We'd love to answer any questions, right? And that kind of little piece of automation there can be built in a pretty straightforward way, but it's and can really grease the wheels of that, right? And like we know, if you look at things like conversion, if you look at conversion optimization, following up on proposals like that is known to boost conversion, right? But it's hard to remember to do. You gotta set a reminder and then somebody's gotta go do it, right? You can get all of that on rails and then free up that mental capacity for your team for things that like they should be doing instead of remembering to schedule tasks.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. I think that is probably why you've seen such an explosion in the like CRM and workflow kind of automation, SaaS platforms out there. That like the Salesforce, I don't know what their market cap is now, but it's in the billions and billions of dollars. And they, if you're sponsoring Formula One because you're allowing your sales staff to see the click-through rates and see how many people and who opened those proposals, that is extremely, extremely valuable. Mm-hmm. I would argue that anything that a piece of off-the-shelf software does is probably going to like help enable you to do service delivery or to do sales delivery. But the really interesting stuff that starts to happen is, and I don't exactly know how to say this, but like KPIs as the first step towards like data analytics. And I'll explain what I mean. Like, let's say, for example, you are a sheet metal welding company, right? Like you go out and people order your team to go out and weld sheets of metal. But you want to grow, right? You can grow your service, your functional service staff, the guys actually doing the welding and laying the metal. But for every human being you add to that headcount, you probably have to add some back office headcount as well, right? Mm-hmm. To like be able to go out and sell because I was talking to like people who do like welding. That's why this isn't the top of my head. But like, so you can't just scale the workforce side of it. You have to scale the management, the middle management, back office, the operations side.
Also has to scale.
Yeah. Yep. And then the problem is that as your business, if it does continue to grow and scale, right, which is great, then the metrics that actually become the drivers of the future growth become, I would say, more obfuscated, but they become less clear. It's like, because you're still thinking in the mindset of, well, the things that helped us grow were the number of hits to our website, and it was our service reviews, and it was the time to close for proposals. I would argue that like there is a point in your growth curve where you have switched out some of that operational side, where it's like, oh, your customers now have a portal that they can log in and they can say, I want to request X, Y, and Z. And you can say, oh, this type of metal and this kind of service, and they need it in this delivery date, and they can pick the thing on the calendar themselves. So you don't need as many of those back office staff to continue to grow, to continue to scale. But I guarantee you that if you start like picking at certain numbers that you have a suspicion about, like a hypothesis, then you will be able to uncover new business opportunities and new directions to grow. In the example I'm thinking of, the folks that I was talking to when they started, when they had this welding company and they started growing, they noticed that through data analytics, they were tracking like a ton of stuff, and they noticed just kind of offhand that certain types of metal jobs were being requested in different regions, and different types of metal were required. So their order amounts were different in different locations in their like kind of franchise model. What that allowed them to do was to change the amount of raw materials that they were purchasing and getting them shipped into different locations, and they were able to build different distribution centers, which drastically reduced their costs. Now,
it's like edge computing, for materials. Yeah,
well, 100%. And also, what it gave them was it was like, oh, okay, well, we've got like 5 clients who keep like doing the same job, 5 customers. Like, why? And nobody at like the management level would have ever, as you start to scale, would have like really dug into those like 2 or 3 like clients that just seem to be growing. But there's only like 5 of them when you've got 200 customers that you need to service.
Yep.
And it turns out that like those 5 guys, those 5 customers were building new types of technology that were kind of, or new types of devices in this new types of machinery in the situation that was becoming super popular and super important, and that was a growing market, and they changed some of their marketing to go after them because they saw those numbers starting to move, and they were like, huh, that's really interesting. And the argument they made to me, which stuck out in my head, was if they had started tracking, if they had been tracking from the beginning the certain types of materials, raw materials that were being delivered to certain parts of the country or to certain service centers, and their versus like, and then month over month, right? The comparative KPI. So like we did like, I don't know, a ton of this stuff last month, but a year and a half ago we did half a ton, so it's doubled. What's happened?
Right.
That's the stuff that then bubbles up and says, oh, okay, I needed like maybe change, like there's a new direction that my business should take.
Yep. Yeah, I think what you're getting at here is that like the thing about having these KPIs, having metrics that you're looking at regularly, and having technology to track that and systems that can enable more of this data coming into the thing, is that these starting to talk about these numbers helps you to ask better questions and to ask what the next questions are. Especially, and one tip that I would give you is that as you're looking at these things, looking at KPIs over time is particularly interesting. Just like the example that you just gave, right? When you see change over time, then you can start to ask questions about like, well, why is that changing? And
yeah,
that inside of that question is a lot of very interesting stuff that can give you competitive edge, can reveal new markets, can really instruct you as to like how you should drive this business. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing that I saw the other day, just like exactly to back up your point, was employee metrics for a service business that what they do is pretty manual labor, but they have to be on site to do it. Mm-hmm. So as they grew, they kept their operations basically the same size, but they increased the size of their work crews. Right, that's where they increased headcount, but they became infinitely more profitable because they were able to service so many more communities. And the problem that they had was they had the individual work crews showing up at these locations, and they had to like check in, do a time check-in before they could perform the work because it was billable work and they can only do it when they're on site. And so you need to have the audit trail to do that. So what they did was they bought like an off-the-shelf time tracking piece of software. Great. Like the work crews go there, they log their time, et cetera, et cetera. But then, human beings are not infallible. And so some people were messing with time entries, and maybe some of the work that they said was done was maybe not done because somebody was, taking a smoke break, whatever it was. And so what they did was they built out their own mobile app so that all their every single person in their work crews, when they got to the location, they had to check in. That's where the time check-in. They still actually used the same off-the-shelf time tracking software. The app just kind of talked to the time tracking software through the API. And they started monitoring the distance of the trucks, right? And like the routes, so they could see, oh, okay, well, let's see how the average time to service is, which they couldn't do before from deployment to when the actual job was done. I mean, they probably could, but it would have been like an incredible data analytics lift. Then they also tracked like how much time was logged by the individual work crews or the people from the time they were actually on premises, geofence, like the device they had in their hand was like, okay, you're here at the property, you can now log in and do the work. And when they left, they would automatically be logged out. And if they went on break, no problem. They leave the property. It's done automatically. So it massively reduces the stress of the actual work crews. And then they just did a few extra things that like, so as those KPIs, like as they got that data, they were able to find, oh, well, some of these guys are taking inefficient routes. And it turns out they just hadn't trained them on Google Maps. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll just like build that into the app. We'll just do a traveling salesman system built into the application. So that increased their time to service, increased their profitability. And then they were like, okay, well, there's this like concept of violations when people inside the communities had done something wrong that the crew was supposed to like handle in a different way, but that was taking them a ton of time. But they never really could tell like had they done they were like, no, boss, there was this violation. I had to like take care of that before I could go back to my proper job. But now in the app that did their time tracking stuff, they take a photo of it. They say, hey, what is the violation? Like you left your trash over here or the door was unlocked, whatever it was that the crew had to go and deal with. And now they had actual data to back up to show their clients, to show their customers, to say, hey, we're going to increase your rate or we're going to charge you per violation we find. And now we have evidence of it all. So I know that's like data collection rather than KPIs, but the fact that they had no way of tracking that out in the field before they were able to like implement the technology side of it.
Right. Yeah. And like they knew their customers' KPIs and knew how to track their own KPIs in order to make a business case to their customers, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question is, if you have a successful or growing service business and you kind of wanting to start to scale, right? And I come to you and I say, hey, Justin, like I'm trying to grow my accounting practice or whatever it is, right? What should I track? I want to build this thing where my customers can log into, and I'm going to be able to do whatever, and I'm going to be able to deliver something with AI or geofencing, whatever. I'm not 100% sure what's going to be. It's going to be cool as heck, that's for sure. But how do I go about like working out what I should start tracking? And does it matter
what number matters? Right?
Yeah, what numbers matter?
Yeah. Here's the way that I would approach that question. Right? Is I would say break the whole kind of business down, sort of like you would be breaking down a factory, right? Kind of, and this is there's a book called The Phoenix Project, and I would really recommend that people read, even if you're not in technology services, because it's a parable just about services in general, and it's a really phenomenal book. But I would look at the business and say, what are the constituent parts of this business? Fundamentally, most service businesses are pretty simple, right? They have to get attention. You have to do marketing. People have to know about you, right? Then they have to get sales, which means people have to call you and they have to like get on a phone or submit a form or something. And then they have to be closed, which means that like you have to make a deal, proposal or a contract or something. Then you have to deliver that service somehow. And that's unique to however you do that, right? And then you generally have to support them somehow, right? And so you can actually break down that sort of thing, that pipeline, if you will, or that machine, and say, okay, well, let's look at what is our KPI for attention? How many people know about us? Well, that's like website visits. How many people are actually looking at it? Now, of the people that are coming to visit the website, how many people click the get a quote button, right? That is a different KPI. Now we're measuring the next stage, not attention, but conversion, what we would call conversion, which means how many people convert from being interested in you to, hey, I want to do something with you, right? And so, again, we're working down the pipeline, and then you can say, well, and then I want to track how many proposals do I write versus how many do I win, right? This would be known as your win rate or your lose rate, or your close rate. And these are really, really foundational KPIs to track. And then in your service delivery, it really depends on what you're doing, right? Like if you're a lawn care company, I don't know why we always talk about lawn care. There's a lot of green in this show. Right? You and
I, we care about our lawns. That's why
we do. You might track lawns per day, right? Or you might track lawn mower hours per day, or lawn min hours per day, or whatever the metric is for like kind of efficiency at doing that, right? And that becomes kind of your North Star for that piece of the business. And then now as you go quarter to quarter working on your business, you can say, well, this quarter, let's work a little on attention. Let's see if we can move that number that we're tracking up a little bit and get more people to notice us, because if more people come in the front door, more people will leave as paying customers. Just simple math, right? And so you can kind of work on individual pieces of the business. You might have a small handful of things that you're tracking, but just like the dashboard in your car, you're like tracking key systems to make sure the whole thing is running together well. And then to wrap that up, what you can start to look at is, what is your biggest constraint? Which one of these things is hardest to move? And then start to work on that one, because you can only go as fast as the slowest part of the system.
You've talked about constraints quite a bit before, and you've talked about the theory of constraints. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Goldrat's theory of constraints is
Gold rats?
Goldrat.
Gold
So
rat. Okay. Gold rat
it's
theory.
essentially the the idea that like a system is only as fast as its slowest step. And the Phoenix Project really puts this into a great perspective. They say, if you imagine a factory floor, and let's just imagine that you are converting trees into paper. Okay, so you gotta bring a tree in, you gotta cut it up, then you gotta take it and you gotta put it in. I don't know, you gotta mill it up into pulp, and then you gotta mix the pulp into some stuff. You got to dry the pulp out and all of this, right? Well, if there's all of a sudden a big pile of trees at the door because they're coming in faster than you can get them cut, then but everything else down the line is fine and moving well, then we know that like the biggest constraint in that system right now is probably intake of trees, the cutting of these things. So how could we do that? Can we parallelize cutting? Can we do the cutting somewhere else? Could we somehow spread cutting out, right? And then like once you do that, now the next step of the system is either going to handle it fine because it has additional overhead built into it by design, or it's going to get overwhelmed. And then you can say, well, okay, well now we got a lot of trees coming in, they're getting cut well, but now we can't mash them all up into the pulp, right? So we got to add more pulp machines or whatever it is. And you can kind of go down the whole system like this and just work piece by piece, optimizing. And the thing is that you're never really done with this. And you're using your KPIs to know if you're doing it well and if it's working and when you're running up against the thresholds of where you need to change things. But you'll never really be done with this. Like you always kind of go back and then work on another piece because the system, it all works together as one big system, right? And that's and that becomes your job as the entrepreneur in growing this thing, is to figure out where's the next constraint that I need to solve for to kind of squeeze the stuff through the machine a little faster.
Yeah, I think you actually just answered my follow-up question, which was going to be like, if I'm looking at a blank sheet of paper, this stuff seems pretty overwhelming, right? Like, if I have a technology system that my clients can log into and like order the lawn care service, and I can log in, and I've got like IoT trackers on the lawnmowers. I don't know. So like we're saying this like, or we have like robot lawn care people, whatever. You know, my question was going to be like, that seems so overwhelming. Like, where do I even start? But I think the point, if I'm like understanding you correctly, is you're saying just do like the next best thing that makes sense and track it, and then have one or two theories ahead of that, and then optimize for one at a time until you run up against the next constraint.
Yep. I would break it down. I think there are 5 subsystems that a service company can think about to start to break this down. I think there's acquisition, that's finding people. There's qualification, getting them through a pipeline, getting them interested in you. Quoting, booking, and closing. So that might be, maybe they have to schedule something with you. Maybe you have to do a proposal. You have to get them closed. You have to convert them from somebody who once says that they're interested in your service to like getting them to sign off on it. Then there's service and delivery. That's going to be unique to whatever you're doing. And then there's support and retention and expansion, which is sort of comes after that. What do you do with these people when they're done, right? And like they're still part of your ecosystem, right? They have lifetime value longer than just the single engagement. And so if you can look at those 5 categories, just write them up on a whiteboard and say, and brainstorm about like, well, which one of these things feels like the hardest one for us to move the needle on? Then you can start tracking it and start to chip away at that. And if you actually go check out the website here for the podcast, we have some extras on there. We're going to have a cheat sheet on there that gives you a little grid with those 5 things, what to think about, some of the common KPIs you might want to track for that, and some of the approaches you can use to track that as well.
Okay. I have not a contradictory piece of advice to that, but I heard another version about like how to choose which one of those like 5 things to work on.
Yeah.
And it was a management professor an executive leadership professor that I really liked. And we went out to a German beer bar once, not in Germany, where I have just come from. This is in sunny Tampa, Florida. And I asked him a similar question around this, and he said, the thing you should do is, if you're trying to pick what to measure, is there's going to be too many things. You're probably going to have like, all these categories, but there are 2 things you should do. as an entrepreneur or as the leader of an organization. You should pick the one that is the most important to you almost personally, right? As your first one, because your business has like some of that personality baked into it. So if customer joy is how you've grown the business, people just like love dealing with you, then maybe there's a way that you can inject joy into more of these experiences. So you can measure like moments of joy or like gifts you send or whatever it is that you're trying to do to keep that personality of your business going. And then he said the second thing to do is pick the one that you like the least, because he said that the KPI that you like the least, or the measure you like the least, is probably your biggest weakness as an entrepreneur, as a leader, and that's probably the thing that is your biggest blind spot.
Yeah.
And he's like, and that's the hardest one to do. But like, if you give yourself that one that you love, and then you give the other one to yourself as your vegetables, you can balance them out as things that like that can help you just make that first decision. I love that piece of advice.
I think that's a great little behavioral aspect on it. Yeah, I think that's
okay. So the things that we've talked about is if you track KPIs with a technology system, it's something that's super important is tracking them like comparatively. This is how much I did this month, this is how much I was doing the month, last year at the same time, for whatever it is. And you can do that easily with technology. And that will eventually, those KPIs, the second thing is if you keep doing that, they will lead to like data insights.
Yep.
Right. Which can help drive your business in other ways. And then the way to do them is to like look for those constraints you were talking about, to look in those 5 categories, work out where the first constraint is, and tackle those first, and maybe like choose one that you like as well.
Yeah.
Did I sum that up okay?
I love it. I think that's great. Now, and the last thing I'll add to that is just, I mean, like, you could start simple. I mean, if this is overwhelming, start tracking one thing. Like, track how many sales you get every day. Track how many phone calls you make a day. Something easy. Once you get in the habit of it, it'll get pretty addictive.
Yeah. But the thing you should track. So I know you just said the last thing we were going to say, but track the usage of the system. If you're building a system and you do not build in user analytics from day one, shame on you and shame on whoever built the thing.
Yes,
I've shame on me too, because I've done that. I've made that mistake. Okay, I'm done. I'm off my high horse. Thank you,
Greg. Thanks for joining us from Basel.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. It's good to see you. I've missed you.
Great to see you.
It's been a long week.
It's just crazy that we could just do this like across the world like this. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, I brought this heavy microphone with me, so cool. Hope it sounds good. All right, my friend. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
Ciao.